But guys, let's move from Da Bulls over to Da Bears. And basically, this is the Just We Hate Coaches podcast, I think, because both topics are about coaches and the negative part of their job. We're asking if Jim Boylan's going to get fired. And this one, we're asking if Matt Nagy is the problem with the Bears' struggle. And all this is stemming from, one, the Bears haven't been what we expected this year. And number two, after the Charger game, there was a little interaction with Adam Hodge of WGN Radio where Matt Nagy said, the question was, well, did you think about running it like to give Pinheiro less room or more room, basically make it a shorter kick?
Yep.
And Matt Nagy said, I'm not even going into that. I have zero thought of running the ball and taking the chance of fumbling the football. They know you're running the football, so you lose 3 to 4 yards. That wasn't even in our process as coaches to think. Everyone blew up about this. I have, even at my job, people are like, Nagy's an idiot, should have ran the ball, yada, yada, yada. Sean, I want to go to you first. What are your thoughts about this? And is Nagy the problem with what's going on with the Bears this season?
Personally, I know a lot of people do not like what Matt Nagy did in that post-game press conference. I know people have thought of him as arrogant. The whole clip of Wayne Larrivee from Packers Radio has gone around as well, of the arrogance of Matt Nagy, which is pretty funny. And
I know.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing. Well, clearly you don't. You've been losing a ton of games. However, I found it to be because I was working for the Score at the time, and I do Bears highlights every Sunday, and I was listening to the press conference that was happening, and I heard that, and I kind of just laughed. I was like, I agree with you. Like, he didn't think about running the ball, and the whole point about it was to make sure that you held onto the ball, that you maintained position at least, and that he didn't want to turn the ball over. So then why would you then put the ball into the hands of your failing starting quarterback that you drafted second overall that just threw one of the worst picks I saw to Casey Hayward? And Mitch Trubisky defended by saying he had a savvy move. Casey Hayward didn't move before you even started throwing the ball. He was sitting in his coverage. He knew where you were going. It wasn't a savvy move. It was a boneheaded pick.
Yeah.
So, like, why would you put it in his hands? And yes, he did just drive you down the field, but we've seen that from Mitch before. He can turn the ball over the next second. He couldn't handle a snap during that game. So I 100% understand why he didn't pass the ball in that situation. And the fact that he had that reaction, I kind of agreed with him. Like, no, I'm not going to pass the ball because that gives even more opportunities to taking a sack, which just happened. Joey Bosa's a monster. It could just absolutely blow up the play. You can get a holding. We know how iffy the refs have been all year. And we know that Mitch Trubisky's just an iffy quarterback in general.
Yeah.
And people are, I think, taking it too far to being like, oh, he should have, he doesn't trust in his offense now, and that's what it showed. Or he doesn't trust in his quarterback. Like, who trusts in Mitch Trubisky? Like, can you blame him for not trusting Mitch Trubisky? Hell no. And yeah, maybe you don't trust his offense. His offense clearly isn't effective. He is this offensive guru, but he's like 30th in the league in every offensive stat his offense is.
You're talking about Matt Nagy.
Yeah, Matt Nagy. Yep. I think that he should have ran the ball. I think that he should have at least gambled to possibly push it to like a 38-yard field goal. And I think he should have tried to at least push it forward and just go full heavy set. Just try to get, in the middle of the field, run through the guard and tackle. Just try to get some yards with David Montgomery.
Yep.
And I think that should have been the goal. But even then, if I was in that situation, I would have probably done what Matt Nagy did. Take the knee. I trusted Eddie Pinheiro. I don't know about the hash mark, and that became a whole different story when Eddie Pinheiro said to the reporters that he would have liked it in the center, and then they were like, wait, you want it in the center? He was like, oh, you caught me. But yeah, I mean, that became a whole different story with, Pinheiro apparently didn't want it on the left hash. Because the wind was going right to left anyway, so it was going to blow the kick anyway, so he had to kick it more out to the right anyway, so you could have made it easier for him putting it in the middle, but that's a different story. I think that
But then you could have fumbled it trying to get it to the middle.
I think no, because you took a knee, so it was if you fumble on that, major issues that aren't even talking about right now.
The worries that's going on, maybe you do.
He hasn't fumbled any under. This isn't Rex Grossman here fumbling under center snaps, but. Yeah, I think that's a different issue. I would have done probably the same thing as Matt Nagy. You're trying to get a win. Eddie Pinheiro's shown that, yes, he missed a field goal earlier, but it was at the other end zone, and he's shown that he can make clutch kicks before, especially in Denver. So I had no problem with him kicking that ball and kicking in that situation, taking the knee and taking the timeout. I had no issue with that at all. You missed the kick. You got to make that kick. If he makes that kick, no one's bitching because you made the kick. You won. So I think that this whole part of the conversation isn't really a massive issue. You didn't lose the game because of that kick. You lost the game because you couldn't punch the ball in on 9 opportunities in the red zone. That's the issue. The issue is that your quarterback can't run basic play calls. And I think that the issue with the Bears is not Matt Nagy. The issue is that they drafted Mitch Trubisky. The issue is that Mitch Trubisky cannot play quarterback at the NFL level. And the issue is that Matt Nagy doesn't have this crazy offensive scheme. He doesn't even really have that modern of an offense. He's running a fairly basic offense, and there is no trickery anymore. There is no gadget plays. There is no wow factor anymore in his offense. The issue is that Ryan Pace cannot draft a quarterback and cannot build up an offense. The quarterback that he did select is horrible, and the coach that he assigned to run this offense isn't creative enough to help out this quarterback in any way possible. And even when he does, Mitch can't connect. It's all three of them. They're all three at fault. It's not Matt Nagy's fault. It's not Eddie Piñeiro's fault. It is just that whole triumvirate of a group of Mitch Trubisky, Matt Nagy, and Ryan Pace. That's the problem, is those three. And maybe one of them needs to go to help the other two out, like a Mitch Trubisky. Maybe all three of them need to go. I don't know. And maybe we'll see what happens after Philly. But right now, Matt Nagy's in very shaky ground. Ryan Pace is in very shaky ground, and Mitch Trubisky's in very shaky ground. None of those guys are for sure safe. They're all up for the ability to get moved on from next year by the Chicago Bears. Matt Nagy isn't the issue, but he is an issue for the Bears.
What's going through your mind, Dave?
I agree with you almost across the board. My problem kind of lies with the fact of, like, I don't know that Matt Nagy necessarily has the ability to pivot mid-game, mid-season on his strategies. It seemed like, the offseason were their comments. I know we talked about this last time. It was like, well, this team seems to have simplified their offense because Mitch wasn't getting it. He didn't progress like he should have from his second year to his third year, or his first to second under this head coach and offensive scheme. So the offense might have been handicapped by that. But the fact that we haven't seen any revelations of this offense other than the fact that it's like, so we should probably run the ball more than 6 times a game, right, guys? Like, I'm sorry, that's not what we're paying you for, Matt Nagy. That's not why you're here. You're here because you came from the Andy Reid coaching tree. You came from one of the best offensive lineages possible. You should be able to find a way to turn, shit into gold at this point as far as our offense. And he's not pivoting. He's not changing. He's not able to figure out how to find success with this offense and keep us moving forward. And I completely agree the fact that, like, Mitch is definitely the biggest hang up on my part is we keep lulling ourselves with the fact of draft the big, strong, tall guy who can throw the ball, and you don't look at the tangible, you don't look at the intangibles, you don't look at the little things that these other guys can do out there. And the era where you can just draft that, like we saw with Blake Bortles, we've seen that with more than a handful of guys in the last 5 years of just taking the big, tall, strong guy is not going to get you wins in the NFL. You need these guys who have that extra X factor to their game in order to put you over the top. And that's what unlocks offenses. It's not like, Andy Reid went, well, we've got Alex Smith, one of the smartest quarterbacks, one of the most efficient passers in NFL history, someone who has that ability to take the ball and run. He has the ability to make those short to mid-range passes so incredibly efficiently. And then he pivoted. He's like, you know what? We had a great year with him, but we're capped off with him. And let's go ahead and let Mahomes do Mahomes, which means, guess what? We get to have a whole lot more fun with this offense. We can chuck the ball any which way. We can have him roll out. We can be a lot more mobile. Like, it's the ability from him to go from A to B to C to D as far as offensive game planning. And that's what Matt Nagy has not shown. Yeah. That's why Andy Reid is Andy Reid, and Matt Nagy was learning under him, but I don't think he ever got to the point of figuring out what the next step is or what the backup plan or the backup plan is. So when I look at this team in its future, I go back and I go, Mitch is the number one problem. That's an easy fix. That's a draft away. That's a free agency group away if we decide to go that route.
It's a little difficult because of sap calorie. You don't have a first-round pick, but there is options for sure.
Right. There's enough guys out there who look like they will be NFL starting quarterbacks in this upcoming draft class. So I think that's step one. I would not kill Nagy over a season of lack of production because of Mitch's shortcomings.
Here's the thing that I want to say about this, and I want to get your take on this. If you get rid of Mitch and give Matt Nagy another shot with a different quarterback, are you letting Ryan Pace pick that quarterback? Because so far, the two quarterbacks that he has actually picked, Mitch Trubisky, Mike Glennon. Yikes and bigger yikes. Somehow, Mike Glennon's a bigger yikes than Mitch Trubisky from what we've seen, but those both are big fucking yikes.
That's fair.
I don't really know if I trust him picking another quarterback. And then it gets into the question of, well, if you don't want him picking a quarterback, who's going to pick him? And is Ryan Pace your GM? And then if you bring in a different GM, you move on from Ryan Pace, does that mean you have to keep Matt Nagy? And then do you want to tie string a GM to a head coach that he didn't select?
That's a good call.
So that's the issue and the tricky part that the Bears are in, that yes, Mitch Trubisky is the problem, but the guy who also selected Mitch Trubisky is the problem. And then that leads to, if you move away from that guy, then you might need to move away from Nagy. And the thing I do like about Matt Nagy is he seems to have this locker room won. These guys still want to play for him. These guys aren't turning. Like, I know he's saying like horse blinders and earmuffs and all that stuff, and it's a little corny, but these guys are still seem to be together. No one's bashing each other right now. Everyone is coming out there and being like, we need to be better. And the improvements happen with the run game, but then you struggle on the red zone. That game should have been a win, and they could have been a club dub and they could have been celebrating all that stuff. But I think the biggest thing that I have issues with is just that, everything can go right for this team like it did on Sunday, and they could still lose because of Matt Nagy. They could still lose because of Mitch Trubisky, even if the defense plays pretty much perfect, even if the run game is pretty much perfect, even if the offensive line outside of I'm blanking on the guy's name now. Former defensive lineman Rashad Coward. Even with Rashad Coward taking 3 penalties because he's still learning the position, he still played well. He got blown up by Bosa, but I mean,
wouldn't?
He's a phenomenal player. You're putting him 1-on-1, and you're going to get blown up a couple times. But all these guys played well, and the only two positions that were issues, you could throw in Pinheiro because he missed 2 picks, but the main 2 issues were Mitch Trubisky and Matt Nagy. And that's the biggest thing with this team is even if you play perfect, you still might lose because the guys that are the main guys on this team, the head coach and the quarterback.
Yeah, for me, the first thing I just want to get into with what I thought is with the whole not running with the Charger thing, fucking run the ball. Like, David Montgomery was having a fucking game. And I get that the whole we might fumble, but I take the chance. I take the chance to get a few extra yards, make it a 38 instead of a 41 even. I even take the chance to, with maybe running it, to get it in the middle for your kicker because of the wind.
Okay, but what if they fumble, they lose, and you're like, well, you had a makeable kick at 41. Why didn't you do that? He's in a no-win situation if they run the ball and they fumble, he's in a lose position.
I get it's a lose-lose, but that's what I
Montgomery
is. That's
because then
fine.
if we fumble, I could and this isn't a vindictive thing of if we fumble the ball, then it's not a question of what's going on up here. It's just, we made a mistake on the field.
But then there's the questions of, you can't trust your kicker for a 41-yard field goal. Chicago media, and it's not you, but Chicago media is such bullshit that they're going to,
because of what happened last year with Cody.
They're going to blast the coach for any decision. Yeah. If he won, there would have been no questions. But if they lost because of a fumble, they would have been screwed. If they lost because of a missed kick, they would have been screwed. If he ran the ball and he still missed the kick, well, then Eddie Pinheiro's the problem. They're just looking for someone to blame, and Matt Nagy, I think, still put his team in a position to win. If they executed, they still would have won, and that's the thing. And yes, you're looking at Montgomery's fumbles. He's fumbled at least one time, freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year, and then he had one more fumble this year. He has ball
extremely
security,
great.
But it just takes one punch. What if his team's going all out? He's juking right, has the ball a little bit away from him. It could happen.
He's as sure of a thing as you could get, though, in that situation. I would rather lose being aggressive than lose playing it safe. And I think that's just a feeling thing. I don't think there's any statistical, there's a better chance if we make this, kneel down in position to get the kick versus going for it.
The difference, I think, at 41 kick was 76% chance, and then I think 38 was an 86% chance. Yeah. So moving the ball up, would have helped him.
Yeah.
But also, like, moving it over to the right, it wasn't the distance that was a problem. It was the wind. And it was just the placement. So then the whole placement comes into factor. But the biggest thing, too, with Montgomery, like, yes, Montgomery had a good game. He had 27 carries for 135 yards.
It's his best game of the year.
But also, because they actually gave him the ball.
Exactly.
But also, you take out that long run that he had, it goes down from 5 yards a carry to 3.5. So it wasn't like he was blasting it. But again, we're talking about him trying to get 3 yards on that game. So he's been doing it all game. But it wasn't like he was like, holy shit, look at this player. Like, he had one really good run and got caught because he was too slow. But also, like, he's a guy that can break a couple tackles and get you, 3 extra yards, which is nice. But I don't have a problem with this. The problem that I have is the play calling. But finish your thought.
And I mean, the thing going into what you were saying with you have the three-headed monster of Pace, Nagy, and Mitch. I think Mitch is by far the first one to go. Like, he has to go because the thing that's even now getting into the craw of Bear fans now are I'm seeing articles where people are digging back to Deshaun Watson quotes, where after the draft, he's like, hey, well, that's something they're going to have to live with. And Bear fans are like, we could have had that. We could have had Deshaun Watson, not Mitch Trubisky. That aside, Mitch just hasn't performed. And when you brought in Nagy, Mitch isn't Nagy's guy. Like, Nagy wasn't in the building when we were like, yeah, we're going to go with Mitch.
But he accepted the job knowing who he was dealing with.
Exactly.
So,
but it's like, am I going to accept the job to be an NFL head coach in Chicago? Stay as the OC in KC. Like, there's that into it too. Let me take the next step in my career. And sure, I'll work with the guy. The other thing I want to point out with Ryan Pace, when you look at his draft classes, just his first overall picks,
that's definitely where I was
the
going.
two defensive guys, pretty good. Leonard Floyd and Roquan Smith.
But even then, they haven't been gangbusters.
Exactly.
I mean, Roquan Smith was pretty much a no-show for the first couple games for the Bears this season. And Leonard Floyd had a good year last year, but he hasn't been great this year. He's only had one good
breakout year.
Yeah, I mean, so, like, even then, like, the guys that you're even giving him credit for, it's not like they're amazing.
Exactly. But, I mean, look at the offensive guys. First off, Kevin White, who
Don't
never
talk
saw
about
the
it.
field.
Don't talk about it.
And then the Mitch Trubisky pick of, I know Mark used to hate me for saying it. I'm going to say it again. If I'm a Bears fan, the biggest thing I hate about the Mitch Trubisky pick is John Lynch fleeced you guys. Where it's like, oh, you want that guy? Let's give up some draft picks to move up one spot. They weren't going to take Mitch. No one else was going to trade up for Mitch. Nobody wanted Mitch. It was Deshaun Watson everybody wanted. Well, and not even that. Like, there weren't needy. I feel like there weren't needy quarterbacks.
That's revisionist. That's
revisionist.
Like, fans wanted Deshaun Watson. That is true. But if you look at most GMs, of you look at most of the draft media that was pushed out. Mel Kiper, Mitch Trubisky was his number one quarterback. Matt Miller, Mitch Trubisky was his number one quarterback. A lot of draft people had Mitch Trubisky as their number one quarterback.
Maybe I just think of me, and I always had Watson.
I remember doing the post-draft stuff. The biggest thing about the draft and the biggest thing about that pick was that he traded up. It wasn't the player that he picked.
Right.
We knew we had a feeling going in there that Mitch Trubisky was going to be the number one player taken. It was that Cleveland could even taken him as well. It was Mitch Trubisky was the number one quarterback, at least talked about going number one. It wasn't a shock that Mitch Trubisky was the first quarterback taken. It was just the fact that they traded up.
Right. We gave up extra value to get him.
The whole idea around it was that go out and get your guy, and if it works, it works. If not, your ass is on the line.
I think
and guess what?
Your ass is on the line 20 times in that episode too.
Yeah, and your ass is on the line now, Ryan Pace, because it didn't work out. So I really don't have an issue with the pick because you can't go back and change it. Like, I wanted Deshaun Watson, but that was the guy you picked, so you have to deal with it. Sucks that I have to watch it. But
does it also bother you too with Ryan Pace that, like, I look at the 2015 one because that's his first one. It's been 4 years since that draft class.
Who's still
and I know
here?
And I know 6th round guys, 7th round guys, even like Amos is a 5th round guy. You don't expect them maybe to live out their career, but like Amos played of a better value than a 5th round pick.
Yeah, he was the best safety in the league last year.
And he just got paid.
But who's the only one left? I know Amos left for free agency, but who's the only one left? Eddie Goldman.
Yep.
Like,
of that first year?
Of that first year. Like, White's not here. Langford's not here. The other two the 3rd round pick and the 6th round pick didn't pan out. But, like, that's the thing of, like, how many of these draft picks are still here for Ryan Pace?
He's been awful in the early rounds. He's been good in the late rounds. He's got Amos, Eddie Jackson, Goldman. He's got Tariq Cohen. He's found guys of value in the later rounds for sure. And defensively, he can find guys. He's finding talent left and right. Roy Robertson Harris has been a great pickup. Bilal Nichols is a great pickup. Going out and getting Akeem Hicks, great pickup. Obviously, you made the move for Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
We don't need a scout to tell us Khalil Mack is good, but he still went out and did it. Bringing in Danny Trevathan. Trevathan's been great. Sticking with Prince Amukamara. Amukamara was kind of left for dead after he left the Giants. He wasn't really that great with them, and he's come back and he's played fantastic.
Yeah.
This team hasn't been the same team. Obviously, Eddie Jackson hasn't been getting the picks that he's wanted to, but defensively he's been fine. It's really just offensively. You look and going out and paying Trey Burton a ton of money as the third best tight end on that team. That was a bad move.
He had
Trey
one
Burton's,
play.
Yeah. And it wasn't even catching the ball. Adam Shaheen was a second-round pick, and he's been a no-show. The only pick that he's gone out and gotten offensively that's been great is Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
So
and that was basically a luck out by us because of his injury.
Yeah,
he
took less money to stay. He took less money to come here.
Exactly, the competition around him as a top elite wide receiver was very low because people were unsure of how he was going to recover from that injury. So I don't know. I agree with you. He is. Even undrafted free agents, he's had a good record of picking up guys. He knows how to go there, but he just whiffs so much so early on those things that you can't miss on quarterback. That's what sets you back as a franchise. And we've seen this with so many other franchises. They're just treading water until they get that guy. And I really feel like we've missed out on a couple of great quarterback talents, obviously, but it's like our defense is ready, everything's ready, and we don't have the right quarterback, so what do we do now? How do we pivot out of this situation where we have a team that's primed for playoffs, but we're missing the most important piece?
And the biggest thing with Pace is, where is he? He's not backing up. He's not helping out Nagy. He's not helping out Pinheiro. He's not helping out Mitch Trubisky. He's not talking. You don't see Ryan Pace. Where's Ryan Pace?
I'll be honest,
been?
I forget he's the GM half the time because I never hear him.
He's hiding. He's not backing up any of his team that he's putting out there. And Theo Epstein has made some iffy moves throughout his tenure in Chicago. He got a World Series, but he's out there at least every 2 weeks talking to the media. Rick Hahn, same thing in Chicago. John Paxson's available to talk. These guys are available to talk and be like, yeah, we fucked up. But you know who's not? Ryan Pace. He's not there to take accountability. And that's something that really rubs me the wrong way. Go out and talk and defend what you're doing out there. But I think overall, the easiest person to move on, obviously, is Mitch Trubisky. You just don't pick up the option. He's gone. And I think the tougher ones are, all right, do you move on from Ryan Pace? I think he's probably next up on the chopping block because I think Matt Nagy still has the locker room, which I like. I do like him as a person. I think he's a truly... he's a football guy. He knows how to reach football players. He knows how to motivate them. He knows how to get the locker room together. I have no issue with that. I really don't. It's just his on-field stuff that's issuing to me. And obviously that's the thing that's hurting the Bears most.
Yeah. But is it the fact that he came with a game plan in mind, and when he got thrown a curveball, he didn't know how to react? That's what I want to find out from him. If he's that guy who, unless the stars line up, his offense isn't going to work. Because there's one thing to be said about that, and you can still be a successful team as long as you meet the requirements. But if he's someone who can't pivot, who can't adjust to the team around him, then I have concerns.
Here's the sad fact.
But we haven't had enough time with him yet.
Here's the sad fact. Being from Chicago, if you're winning, I don't care. If you're an offensive guru and your offense sucks, but you go 12-4, I don't give a shit. You're 12-4.
Yep.
If you win, I have no problem. You could be an offensive guru and have a offense from 1950. I don't care as long as you're winning.
Wishbone.
Yeah. I think Chicago fans would love that. Oh, run the ball 90 times. But at least with Matt Nagy and the offensive guru part, the biggest thing, and this is coming from JT O'Sullivan, former 49er backup, remember? In the day, YouTuber now. He's got the QB Room, I believe his channel's called. Go check him out. He broke down a film on Mitch Trubisky and Matt Nagy, and pretty much threw blame both ways. But the biggest thing that stood out to me was, I think it was a 2nd and 10 play that they had, and he said, this is the biggest thing that stood out to me. This is the biggest sign that Matt Nagy does not trust Mitch Trubisky. And as a quarterback, if my offensive coordinator called this for me, it'd be the biggest middle finger to me that someone could give me. Yeah. He called, I forget what he called, but
this was 2nd and 10, you said?
Yeah, I think the actual play, at least in Madden, from what I realize, is stick. So the two outside it's gonna be a 3 wide receiver look, 2 wide receivers on the right side, 1 wide receiver on the left side. The 2 outside receivers are gonna run a 10-yard hook. And then the back that's on the left side of Trubisky is going to run a flat route, and then the inside wide receiver here is going to run a flat route. So I think it's stick in Madden, and then the tight end 2 on the right side is going to run out 5 yards and then turn around and just sit in the middle of the field. And he said it's the first play that is put into a West Coast offense. It is something that you call in preseason only.
So it's elementary. Is what you're saying.
And he said if you cannot run this look, you're not even a 4th string quarterback on an NFL roster. And he goes through the play, and he said, this is the perfect defense to run it against, and this is the easiest play to run as a quarterback because you have 1 read.
I'm feeling the pressure, and I'm not even out there.
And and the first read is you look at what the how the linebackers react to the tight end. So if the guy on so in cover 3, both guys are going to go out and play in the middle of the field, but a little bit separate. So the whole point of that route is to beat the middle of the zone. So if the guy on the right side dips in and attacks and covers the tight end, then you go to the right side of the field. And if the corner's covering the guy on the hook, then you go to the flat. If the guy's coming up and he's covering the flat, then you go to the hook. It's that easy.
Yeah.
Right. And if if the other guy goes on and covers him, you go to the left side of the field.
So what you're telling me, it's a very basic read the defense and just your option.
Yeah, exactly. You should know it. Right when you hit your third because it's a 3-step drop. Right when you hit that 3rd step, you're planning and you should just be firing right away to wherever you go.
You've already read it.
It's already so easy to see. Trey Burton's sitting in the middle of the field wide open because the linebackers are off of him, and they start coming up like right when Trubisky takes his 4th step. But if he on that 3rd step, if he fired it at Burton, it would have been right in the chest. It would have been a 5-yard pickup, and boom. And again, this is 4th string quarterbacks can run. And he fumbles the ball. And he turns the ball over. So on one of the most basic plays ever, and against the perfect defense to run that play, Mitch Trubisky turned the ball over and couldn't even throw the ball out. So Matt Nagy, even when he's keeping it as simple as possible, Mitch Trubisky's still fucking up.
He finds a way.
And even with the goal line stuff, like running, 5 wide receivers out there, 2 of the weapons in that 5-look set are tight ends. Like in goal line situation, like that's a bad play call. It doesn't matter even if Mitch Trubisky scores a touchdown on that play. That's a bad call. That's a bad play call. But even then, when you have a great play call and it goes to shit, that's a sign that the quarterback sucks. And when you can't call good goal line offense, that's on the quarterback. Just run the ball. Take it out of his hands. Give it to David Montgomery and make your fat guys push. Run the ball 3 times because it doesn't matter. I don't care. Run it 4 times. If he gets stopped on the one, at least try. I would rather have that than get bullied off the field because you get 3 points on that play. I would rather just go with the ground and pound in the red zone. And even then with the play that I was talking about with the pass, it's just brutal. Like Matt Nagy's not being helped out there. So it doesn't seem to be a good relationship at all. And do I think that Matt Nagy is to blame for this Bears team? Absolutely not. Does he need to take some blame for this Bears team? 100%. But is it all on him? No.
Because you weren't on last week, I just want to throw this at Sean.
Yep.
What would you do if you're Ryan Pace, if you're Matt Nagy, you're making the call about Mitch at the end of the year? If you're getting rid of him, how are you finding a new quarterback? I know Dave and I jumped into depth in this, but you weren't on that podcast, so I just want to know, are you going free agency, draft? Obviously, you can't trade right now because it's now over.
You have 2... you ride out the 9 games with Mitch. Even I wouldn't have traded for a guy.
Yeah.
You looking for agency?
Andy Dalton in?
Huh?
You're not going to bring Andy Dalton in? The game manager.
You go out and in free agency bring in a quarterback. I think you draft 2 in the draft as well. You have 2 second-round picks. Obviously, don't use both, but use one of them on a quarterback, and then I would say even use the late-round pick on them. Bring in as many quarterbacks as possible. You need to help out.
We treated kickers this offseason.
You need to help
tryouts, bitches.
You need to help out your head coach as much as possible. And I would not like to see Mitch Trubisky back on this team. If he somehow shows that he can be a decent quarterback, 9 weeks after, or in the next 9 weeks, then maybe. But I would need to see a lot from Mitch Trubisky to want to bring him back for $24 million. But I would say bring in as many quarterbacks as possible and see what they can do, because this is a issue that you don't have anybody on this team that I would be confident in. Chase Daniel is a backup and has been a backup for 11 years for a reason.
Yeah.
You need to have someone that could step in and possibly provide a spark. And we saw that in Jacksonville with Gardner Minshew. He's come out and provided a spark. And this team isn't good, but they're much better off than what Chase Daniel would be doing. We saw what Tom Brady could obviously do and step in. And I hate using people using Tom Brady as a reference, because he is such a unique player and such a unique story that you're not going to find a Tom Brady. But even then, Kirk Cousins.
I'm just saying, there's a team that drafted quarterbacks with Tom Brady even, and where are those quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, Jacoby Brissett's 5-2. Jimmy Garoppolo's 8-0. Like, you need to take shots on these guys, and they don't need to be your Sam Darnolds, and they don't need to be your Andrew Lucks, and they don't need to be your Peyton Mannings. They don't need to be these top prime guys, but you need to bring in guys.
Yes.
And even
and
with that,
you bring up Kirk Cousins. What would the Redskins have been like if they just took RG3?
No, yeah, I said that. That's what I said. Do Redskins, pick multiple quarterbacks. Like I don't care. Like, bring in as many guys as possible.
Yeah, no, I think I like that. I like that in theory, man. That's exactly the route we should take. And just a final pin on you breaking down that one play of Mitchell Trubisky, I think it kind of exemplifies a lot of the problems we have with him. It's the lack of his understanding of NFL defenses, being able to make those reads quickly, and the lack of confidence. It's a 3-step drop play where he's taking 4.5 steps back. It's like, that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Him turning over the ball shouldn't have happened, because he never was supposed to continue going back. He should have had his decision. He should have made his read. He should have gotten rid of the ball.
1, 2, 3, hit.
Exactly. And I think that's a lack of confidence. It's a lack of understanding. It's a massive red flag. And I agree. This team should treat him like a game manager now. We need to go heavy on the run. We need to just feed the ball to our run game.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with Mitch throwing the ball 15 times a game. That's not a problem in my mind.
It's a lot.
You say a lot.
10 times a game.
I'm not treating him like Kirk Cousins, with Dalvin Cook out there with 9. He's going to throw 9 of 10. That's no.
Can we run the Wildcat?
Honestly,
just have Montgomery out there.
Honestly,
Have Cordero.
I'm surprised we can go after like CJ Beathard. Just take a flyer on somebody. Was it Mullins or Beathard who?
It was Beathard for Taylor Gabriel.
Yeah.
No,
I would have done.
I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. I mean, what's the point of having a wide receiver if you're not going to use him anyway?
What's the point of getting CJ Beathard? Like, is
Could he
CJ
be better?
Beathard that great?
Could he be better? Did he win games?
I don't know. I don't think it's going to change the world.
I know.
I mean,
I don't think it's changing the world. I think it's just,
And then you have 3 quarterbacks on your roster when none of them are good. Like, what's the point?
Bringing in guys.
I'd rather have Taylor Gabriel than CJ Beathard.
Guys.
So I don't really care that much about not getting CJ Beathard.
I don't think he's a savior. I just think it's bringing in guys.
I never said savior.
You literally just said.
Dave's like, just bring in
when
guys.
Did I say savior? I said I
don't think he's going to be a savior. And I'm like, yeah, no.
Oh. I'm whatever. I mean, he's just a third guy in your roster.
Exactly.
Like,
no, I gotcha. It's just to the point of depressing.
I know, it's frustrating.
Be a game manager. Treat him like he hasn't proven he can do more than that. We expect him to take a step forward after last year.
Yeah.
He had a very good year last year, and it turns out to be fool's gold at the moment.
Well, and just to kind of put a bow on this, the thing that I'm thinking is, Sean mentioned this earlier, like, who do you move on from? And Mitch is the easiest, but the other two, Ryan Pace has 3 years left. This is only year 2 of his 5-year deal. Or not Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy.
Yeah.
Year 2 of his 5-year deal. The problem I have with moving on, like, you're in a catch-22 to me, because do you leave Ryan Pace to finish out with Matt Nagy and say you've got 3 years left? It would be, a total of 7 years overall.
Yep.
And then if it's not good, then cut ties with both of them, bring in a new GM to then bring in a new coach, new quarterback. We all start off fresh. I don't even know if the new quarterback part would be good, because then you're going to have overlap. If you're cutting Mitch now, you might have a quarterback at that time, and it's like, oh, we have a guy we really like. Like, that was the big thing with Mitch and Nagy, where I felt like you had to bring in a coach that was going to fit the quarterback, because you're not going to get rid of Mitch at that point.
You had John Fox and Mitch Trubisky for a year, so they didn't pair it up in the first place.
I'm almost sitting there going, just, you know what? Cut your, like, if you're not happy with Pace, cut your losses now. Bring in a GM that it's like, you're going to keep Nagy on. He's the coach for right now. But you know what? If he doesn't produce in the next 2 years, we're fine with firing him if he's not producing. That gives the GM kind of power where it's like, okay, I'm not stuck with this guy for 3 years.
Yeah.
If he's going to be like what Jim Morris Sr. would say, diddly poo. And also it gives Matt Nagy a chance, all right, your final 3 years, we'll get a quarterback that you want. We'll get the guy that you think in this draft or in this free agency that you think can run your offense and be the guy to basically put this offense on the field. That's what I think is the best move for the Bears. Get rid of Mitch this year, maybe get rid of Ryan Pace. Let a new GM come in, work with Nagy, give Nagy the option for a quarterback, and then after those 3 years, then you can decide, is this GM even worth it anymore? And it kind of can reset the timeline for all 3 positions.
Yeah, I don't see Ryan Pace going anywhere this year. I think it's just clear Mitch and reset with a new quarterback.
But the thing is like, and
it's just I don't feel like
it feels like it's wasted no matter what.
Enough?
No, I know, but and that's the thing is like we know this defense has a very limited window.
Yeah.
So and it might even be closing already. I don't know.
Nick Foles.
But oh god. I don't want to. If I hear
Teddy?
Nick Foles, if I hear Cam Newton, if I hear CJ Beathard, if I hear any of these retreaded names over and over again, these uninspired names, I don't want to hear it. Like, get out of here with all that. Like, Cam Newton's not going to get traded from the Carolina Panthers. Quit living in that fantasy world. And even then, I don't know if he'd be that big of an upgrade. Like, Cam Newton's been injured so many times. Cam Newton has been Cam Newton since he won the MVP, since Von Miller scared the shit out of him in Super Bowl 50. Remember when I predicted that to be 45-10? Yeah, guess what? They got their asses kicked and rolled. I don't see, and Nick Foles isn't that great, and I don't want to pay him $20 million.
He doesn't have to be that great with
but do you want to pay him $20 million? No. I'd rather pay a rookie $5 million or whatever, taking a second round pick, than paying a guy $20 million and then put more money into this defense to make it great. Like, I'd rather keep guys on this team than bring in Nick Foles. That's how franchises go to die. Keep the guys that you need, that you know are already good out there, and take shots at development. That's the whole thing that the Patriots looked at, was developing guys. That's the whole thing that the Redskins tried to do with the RG3 stuff. They were trying to get a backup they could trust in Kirk Cousins. Look, not only could they trust him, that guy went out and got paid. Go out and start getting guys that you can grow and develop in your system, and or at least in your culture, that know how to play in Chicago, that know what it's like to be a quarterback in Chicago. Go out and do that. I don't need Nick Foles on this team. I don't need Cam Newton. Go out and get a guy that's never been in the NFL, because you know what? Maybe he is something. Because we already know what Nick Foles is. We already know what Cam Newton is. I don't think it's going to change the world if Cam Newton's on this team. I don't think it's going to change the world if Nick Foles is on this team. Go out and get something that is already, keep the guys that are special on this team, like Khalil Mack, Eddie Jackson, if you want to throw Roquan in there, or Kyle Fuller. Keep the guys that are special on this team, and then go out and get guys that are new, fresh faces that could reinvigorate this team. I don't think Nick Foles can do that. I don't think Cam can do that. I don't want to see that. I want to see that Mitch Trubisky's gone after this year. I want to see Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy get one more year, and if they can't do it, cut loose. If you waste another year with the window next year in 2020 with this defense, and they can't win, oh well. But you can't change everybody next year and still hope to be good, because if you bring in that, then you have to get rid of Chuck Pagano, then you have to get rid of all these other players, and then you're trying to rebuild on the fly.
Great, we're in a hard rebuild.
Yeah,
now.
it's you cannot do that. So it might suck to keep Matt Nagy around because he isn't that great of a head coach, or at least an offensive play caller. But the guys like him, so I think it'd be stupid to get rid of him this early. I think that. Maybe you bring in a better offensive-minded assistants to help him. I don't know if Markel Fritch is cutting it, but I think the easiest thing to do would be cut bait with Mitch Trubisky, and I think that's what they should do. And I think Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace should get one more year.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think. Down below in the comment section, is Matt Nagy the problem? What do you do with the three-headed of Pace, Nagy, and Mitch Trubisky? And also, this is the last time on the podcast you're going to see or hear Dave's voices. Sean and I are going to talk some Blackhawks. Like, we make the joke. We mention the word hockey, and,
I just disappear.
He just disappears. But let us know what you guys think down below in that comment section.